Hello, Internet surfers and wakeboarders. Today I'll be talking about the two worst state flags of the US, and I'm not going to hold the suspense any longer than necessary. Those flags are Mississippi and Georgia. But first, I'll jump into a detail that seems a bit pedantic at first, but I promise is important as we move along. So, when many of you think of the Confederate flag, you probably think of something like the left flag here. And although that is deeply associated to the Confederacy, that's actually technically the Confederate battle flag. And the Confederate flag is actually what was seen on the right. So it's a little detail that seems extremely pedantic, but I promise it's important as we move along. But let's talk about the state flags now. So the first one, the easiest one to talk about, is Mississippi. And so obviously you can see that in the upper left-hand corner, we've got a nice canton, which is clearly, the Confederate battle flag. And obviously this symbolism is pretty bad, especially in the United States that, where the Union won the Civil War. And it seems like a pretty bad symbol to have on your flag. And when a lot of people look at this flag, they don't really think of, Mississippi as being a progressive place where, cool things happen and, things want to be. And so as a result, it's a really bad flag because the symbolism is so deeply associated with, like slavery and white supremacy and that kind of stuff. And so actually people in Mississippi, so this is a flag, the Stennis flag proposal. So a woman called Lawrence Stennis proposed this flag in 2014, and it's gained a lot of support in terms of replacing the current state flag. And actually just very recently, within the past month or so, as this is being recorded, Mississippi is moving to trying to get a new flag, and this is one of the strong candidates. And so I really hope that this flag moves forward, because the Mississippi flag, not through any aesthetic purposes, but just the symbolism is so strongly, deeply rooted in racism that I think it really needs to get out. So next we'll move on to Georgia. So obviously you can see that the old flag of Georgia from 1956 to 2001 had the same symbolism, and for the same reasons I think it's a terrible symbol to have. And so in 2001 they decided to switch to a temporary flag to try and get to something more permanent later on. And the 2001 to 2003 flag is obviously temporary, but it is one of the worst flags aesthetically, just for like how it looks ever. It's really terrible. And the thing is that it doesn't even escape the symbolism of the previous flag, because you can see that they have all of the flags in Georgia's history. So you contain the old flag that you didn't want to keep in the new flag, which seems kind of like defeating the purpose. But anyways, in 2003 they decided to vote on a new flag, and this flag from 2003 looks like this. Now, you might be thinking that it looks very familiar, and the reason why is because it is very heavily inspired by the Confederate States flag, the actual official Confederate States flag. And so they took this old flag that had, the battle standard, that was kind of the more overt symbol that's, talking about, the Confederacy, and they just replaced it with one that's, perhaps a little bit less well known, but it's kind of like a dog whistle for all the people who, still deeply associate with that. And so I also think it's a really bad flag that should be replaced, just because the symbolism, again, is so deeply rooted in racism and white supremacy and slavery. So yeah, that's a very short video, but that's why. It has nothing to do with the aesthetics of the flags, but both of these flags are terrible, and they need to be replaced, as soon as possible, in my opinion. And this is not a flag tier list, but if I had to give them a grade, I'd give them an F minus 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 minus. Okay, bye.